Today we're with Lance Coury, X Games gold medalist, founder of THRASHIN Supply, and someone who has built a life around motorcycles. But this time, he's letting us into a space no one has seen before. We're going inside Lance's private garage to see the bikes, cars, projects, and stories that shaped how Lance got here. Epic, dude. You might be the most motorcycle advocate of a person that I know. Like truly, I mean that. You grew up doing it. You did it as a career through high school, I did college age.
Yeah, I was making money riding between 16 and about 27, 28. When I walk in here and as I set this place up, I was really like living through how I got here today. And I was kind of reliving motorcycles and where they've taken me as a human, like just what they've done for me. I grew up in a house that was mostly paycheck to paycheck. My dad was a hand sign painter. My mom worked like the front office of a doctor's office. Here's like a YZ80, my dad. This was at Paris Raceway.
And so your dad's just hustling to take you to these tracks, buy you these bikes, work on them for you.
Yep, yeah, so my mom and dad, they definitely dedicated a lot to my career. So I lived an amazing life, but my parents sacrificed, I think, any extra money that they did have to go to the racetrack. Here's a cool one that I was kind of telling you. So this is me and Cole. That's us riding 110s in the valley. We used to ride them around the streets everywhere. And then me and Cole at the racetrack, you could see like the era of like the trucks and the bikes, and we signed the picture back then. And
so how old were you when you realized, oh, I might actually have something here?
When I was 15, I wanted to learn tricks just for fun. And then I was at the track and I met Carey Hart and I met Colin Morrison. Both of those guys were riding in the X Games at the time. They don't let you just jump freestyle ramps. So I was like, I really want to ride freestyle. How do I get into this? And then finally after like 3 to 6 months of kind of like texting Colin Morrison, I finally got access to go ride where he rode. And at the time, Colin Morrison, his nickname is Scummy. And there was a freestyle movie called Twitch and Scummy. And that was like, of that era, was maybe like 04, 05. And I like saw him at the track, had the movie, rewatched the movie a million times. During this whole time, X Games is going on at Staples Center. So I'm 13, 14 years old watching X Games at Staples Center, watching skate, BMX, freestyle, and then also...
And at this time, X Games is the thing.
It's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
You know, and like I remember getting my parents to drop us off at X Games and just like being there for like all 4 days and just being obsessed with it, just with like a general admission ticket and just like going to all the different venues and just loving it. This is my friend Riley right here in the picture. Again, these are probably all when I'm about 8 years old. And he's still one of my best friends today. He was the best man at my wedding alongside Cole, all because of motorcycles. And I think that's still going on today. Like I met Juan through Harleys and we talk every day. I find that like people that are into speed, gearheads, burning gas, burning rubber, I usually get along with, and then like you can do something with them and you don't even need to talk. Yeah, so this is...
Dude, wait, hold on.
My action figure. Yep, yeah, so we had action figures in Walmart and Target and...
Do your kids understand what this was?
My son, so I have like one more box of these. Every time he comes to my office, he's like, can I get another one? And I mean, these things are like 10, 15 years old now, so they kind of break pretty easy, they're brittle. And at first when he was opening them, he didn't even know how to spell his name. He didn't even realize like why I'm on the box. Like he didn't realize what the heck was going on. I'm like, dude, when you're older, you're gonna realize how cool this is. Like this is your name. Like I had an action figure. Now he's of age and he's less breaking his toys and he's a little more delicate. He's 6 years old now. He still breaks them, but he doesn't break them within the first day anymore.
Did you always feel like you were good at jumps as a kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
For some reason I was good at hole shots too for a little bit, but I also had like really bad eyesight. I had astigmatism, and I kind of think that I would have been better if I had known that earlier in my life, but it was hard to read the track. I mean, I've had some very, very bad injuries riding freestyle motocross.
Lance Coury is up, but he looks like he's in pain there on the track.
I've broken my jaw, both legs, both arms, multiple times. You're off the bike for 2-3 months, and I'm like dying to get back on the bike. I won some medals. I'd traveled the world. And I was really happy with everything that I'd done. And I still was always obsessed with street bikes. And I had been working on THRASHIN for about 4 years at that point. So I was doing THRASHIN and I was competing in the X Games. And I realized like, I was still passionate about bikes, but I would come home and I would rather work on THRASHIN stuff than go try a new trick. And that was, once I realized that, I was like, I'm done.
Something I've picked up on from being here is how you like things so dialed and polished.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, dude, my kids, they know, like, don't touch anything in here. Like, touch it, like, they can sit on them, they can play with them. I've let my kids rev all my bikes and they have their bikes, but like, respect them. This was a YouTube biker build-off against Cruzy Originals. I've always wanted a chrome frame Harley. You could scratch this black and take a good filler and not even know it's there once you cut and buff it.
This is raw metal underneath.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
You're messed with this. So this was that was in itself was a big, not challenge, but just being careful and under a time crunch. And if you make a mistake when the bike's got to be done in 2 weeks, like, you're a little bit more, worried and cautious and getting the big frame and the motor without chipping it. And the original idea for this bike was to have an EFI, the old style. This is the model generation that had these switches on it. The inside of that has a really big throttle-by-wire housing. Basically, we wanted to get away with that. We wanted the bars to be super clean. And so we put the switches in the frame and we put a previous generation EFI. So there's the EFI inside of this.
You've retrofitted for that.
We tried to.
Okay.
All along, we thought it was gonna work because we plugged it in and like we wired it and we went rum, rum, and the bike revved. When we put it on the bike and built the bike and rode down the street 2 days before we were supposed to ride the bike out to the show, it's like putting like an Apple mouse on a PC computer. And like you're doing this and the mouse isn't doing. So you're twisting the throttle, but it's not actually doing what you're doing. So now we use an old chopper throttle and we're spinning
the throttle by
the
wire.
original
internals.
throttle by wire. You can see that we used our water jet at THRASHIN to cut this out and bend it. And we didn't have time to chrome it. That's why it doesn't match the frame. I've always enjoyed making my own stuff. When I started THRASHIN, I was by myself. When I was riding freestyle, I was by myself. It was all on myself. So having this space and being able to come here and stare at my motorcycles and stare at my history, stare at some of my favorite cars and things that I've worked hard for decades, it allows me to feel young, remember why I love this stuff, because everything you do does turn into a job at some point. This was like a really, really cool piece that my wife was able to surprise me with. We were moving houses and she found this folder, and this folder had, for some odd reason, not all of them, but some of the flights that I was taking when I was riding freestyle. These were all flights, so motorcycles took me around the world.
Do you feel like that helped shape your mindset today, just being able to see other cultures and communities
Definitely.
and how people operate?
I have friends to this day that are from other countries that I WhatsApp them, and we got to get our kids together. We're like all retired now. And this guy, Matt Ribot, he was a Red Bull athlete and he would come to America for half the year. He would come here because it was snowy in Switzerland. So he was really a mentor, and he taught me a lot of my gnarlier tricks. And there was a lot of times where he ran up and picked me up off the ground, or I ran up and picked him up off the ground. And like that experience was insane. Andre Vila, that was when I won my gold right there, right behind you.
What did it feel when they put that medal around your neck?
Man, just like the flash of how many injuries it took to get there and how much effort it took and how many times I wanted to throw in the towel, and then getting there and getting that moment to be on the top of the box. It was just like, it was worth it all, It's crazy how fast time flies and how much that got me to here, but how much like I sometimes forget that I did that for so long.
This thing right here is absolutely insane. I mean, it looks great from the outside, but even underneath, it's got something crazy.
I've always wanted a late 60s, early 70s, like this generation Chevy. Nelson Racing, 427, blown with a 3.0 Whipple. You can have somebody go by with a lawnmower in the back of their truck and the truck's beat up and they're like, or you could go by and there's somebody that drives by in a nice Ferrari. Mercedes or Ferrari, and they're like, you know, so it just turns heads. It's cool. It's fun when you're in it. We did like a really cool kind of just OE style interior. Fire it up.
That's sick.
I don't want to screw the words up, but I had a the brake booster was like the vacuum brake booster, and this piece is thrashing. But like, so we made that. Juan drew it.
So you had to make an adapter.
I took apart the pieces and was like, okay, we can make this adapter. So we made that and machined it. So there is one piece on this that was actually machined by us.
One day, I will own one of these.
Yeah, 1970 911T. This one came across Patrick Long's desk. He ran through the specs and he was like, you have to have this. Like, this is the one. This is the one that has all the right parts. The chassis has the original 81,000 miles on it. This was the last generation Porsche, and even like my Blazer, like pre-emissions, pre-DOT, pre-any safety, pre-airbags, pre-bumpers, like pre-were anything in that 70s in that Blazer, and same for this. So both of these cars don't require smog checks in California.
Wow.
The transmission oil takes a lot longer to warm up. When you start to drive it, you got to really like granny shift it for a while. So again, like I told you earlier about my buddy picking me up off the ground, he invited me out to Switzerland. There was a contest and I calculated my flip wrong. I went over the bars, and then all that damage is from the bike actually smashing my head. You know, so like I actually think I would have been fine if the bike didn't come back around. I woke up 24 hours later, not knowing where I was, and people weren't speaking English in the hospital. But my dad was there. Where am I? What's going on? What happened? Oh, you were riding a contest. You under-rotated a flip. Where? Like, who's here? You know, like a long knockout. I think they said I was sleeping for a couple minutes. I've seen people crash the same way and not live. And I saw it while I was riding freestyle. My family is extremely supportive, like I was saying. My wife is incredible. She is so supportive. If it's an event, if it's a ride, she's there to pick up and get something done at Thrashin, or to make sure the kids are handled and taken care of. My mom works at Thrashin. She was one of our first customer service employees. She likes to be there. She likes to make sure people are getting taken care of the way that I would take care of them, the way she would take care of them. Our customers are our family. My sister is now part of the team. She's head of customer service. My dad, we talk every day. I talked to him this morning. I'm with my kids all the time. Yeah, I mean, family first and foremost is it's what makes you calm. It's what makes you comfortable, at least for myself. You know, I like being around them, and even my coworkers. I trust them so much. Everyone on my team, we all love what we do. No one's forced to be there. Everybody is enjoying it, and everyone gets to enjoy this opportunity to be around two wheels and have a good time.
So you obviously have a ton of stuff in here, and a ton of stuff that you should be proud of. But if you could just choose one thing to take with you, what would it be? And let's not say it's a bike or a car.
Yeah, no, I honestly think one thing, I think I'm probably gonna grab that X Games medal and book it. I might try to grab like one Red Bull helmet and one X Games medal and like get
Tuck
out.
the medal into the
Can
helmet.
I carry two things like that?
What number is this?
73, I think. Yeah,
Out of how many
73.
again?
131. It is one of the best handling Harleys I have ever ridden.
I was gonna ask you about that, like off camera, just like.
No, it is insane. I mean, I have a Road Glide that is the same basically generation as this. I have my Carbon ST that we built. I have other bikes. When it's on the freeway or in the canyons, it goes exactly where you want it. It feels like it's on rails.
Feels like a sport bike.
Yeah. 2013 Dyna, I bought it when it was brand new. Before I started thrashing. This was the bike that I kind of like made a lot of the parts on. So this was one that I didn't ever want to sell. I've ridden it to Sturgis. It's got 39,000 miles on the clock. So, and then kind of back to my dad's hand lettering. He hand lettered this on my tank. So this is a bike that I'll never part with. Unless the building's on fire, then I'm running out with the medal and see you later. I love these bikes because they're still, in a Harley sense, performance driven. Like, you can ride them pretty hard, you can ride them pretty fast. They handle cornering really well. They can handle some bumps pretty well. They've got suspension, but you still feel the vibrations and you still feel the rawness of riding a Harley.
I saw you guys have a grand opening party.
Yeah.
And it was insane how many people were there.
Bikes were filling the streets and people were in the streets, and technically, like, cars couldn't get through or safety vehicles couldn't get through. Nobody did anything bad, but other than just like there was so many people. Right. And the police were in a panic and they were just like, what's going on? And I had to calm the police down 2 hours into it. It was like having like a house party and your parents are mad at you. I was like, look, like, everyone's being good. Like, that picture had to go up. Like, just seeing that here and just reminding myself, how much support that THRASHIN gets and we get at THRASHIN, and myself, and all the hard work makes it worth it,